And Big B, Brian Hanley, welcome to Steelers Almighty. Appreciate everybody showing up. Thank you guys for all your support, man. We got a good show for you guys today, man. Lot going on, even in the offseason. I know it's the dead period, but there's still a lot going on right now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. First things first, salary cap. That has reached $277 million. Maybe it goes to 281. Those are the reports right now. Steelers are going to have a lot of room. We're going to talk about some of the things that maybe we can possibly do with that. Second, Big Ben bashes the Steelers culture. But the main thing is he right in what he's saying about Steelers right now? Broderick Jones, man, can he be salvaged? Is it over for Broderick Jones? Is the change of position going to left tackle? Is that going to fix him? We're going to break all that down. And then we got a mock draft for you guys, man. Got a mock draft. It's an interesting one. It's not some. So we had one on the big show a couple of weeks ago that somebody from CBS put out. It was nonsense. No. This is my mock draft. 5 rounds. So yeah, we're going to check it out and see exactly what's going on with it. But it should be interesting. Should be very interesting. So make sure you guys stick around for that at the end. So appreciate you guys being in here. Again, you can find Steelers Almighty on YouTube, youtube.com/Steelers Almighty. Also, anywhere that you have social media, you can find Steelers Almighty. And if you prefer the audio version, anywhere that you get a podcast, you can find Steelers Almighty. Make sure that you also sign up for a membership if you want to help support the channel in that way. Memberships are available, 5 different levels for you guys to sign up with and get members-only content. So we appreciate you guys. Let's get into this thing. So first up, look, the salary cap, it keeps going up year after year after year. And this year is no different. Cap is moving to $277 million. There's some reports that say it could go to 281, but we'll just use 277 right now. And that's a good thing for Pittsburgh. It looks like it's at 55 million now. Now there's some metrics and things out there that you can get all into the weeds and say that Pittsburgh with the bump, it's up to 60 million. And I'm thinking, well, if it went up 20 million, how are we only up to 60? But whatever it is, let's just use hard numbers. The Steelers right now, it's at 55 million in cap space. That's a lot. It's the 8th most in the league. So they got some room to do some stuff here. Now, here's one thing. The Steelers can easily get to about $90 million by making the next moves. And you're thinking, hold on, what are you talking about, Big B? Well, yeah, they can get up to upwards of $90 million. First thing they need to do, extend TJ Watt. Okay? You're not trading him. You're not going to cut him. None of that's going to happen. You're not going to let his contract run out. You're not going to pay him or let him play the last year on his deal. None of that's happening. So since it isn't, you need to get a contract extension done for TJ Watt sooner than later. There's no reason to drag this thing out to the season. Get the cap space now so you can use it in free agency. You want TJ Watt. He says he wants to be here. Well, if that's the case, get the man signed, get him extended so that you can use this money in free agency so we can put forth the best product possible for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's number one. Next up, Larry Ogunjobi. Cut Larry Ogunjobi. It saves $7 million. It just makes perfect sense to do that. He hasn't lived up to his contract. We all know that. He's a nice guy, a contributor, but he hasn't lived up to that. You can save $7 million by releasing Larry O, then you 100% do that. Then you got Cole Holcomb. Now, this one's tough for me just for the simple fact that he got hurt. He didn't play this past year. He was playing decent football in 2023, but again, he had an ugly knee injury. I was glad that the man was able to even run again. But if you bring back Elandon Roberts, do you need Cole Holcomb? Because if you bring back Elandon Roberts, he's not going to cost you very much. Sorry, Cole Holcomb costs $6 million, or we can save $6 million by cutting him. I think you do that. And then maybe you want to bring him back on a cheaper deal. If that's what you really want to do. Okay, fine. But to save the $6 million, you have to do it. You just have to do it. Next up, I cut Cordarrelle Patterson. I thought he got way too many touches for what he was bringing to the table. Again, I get it. He was familiar with Arthur Smith's offense, and he showed a flash here or there. But for $2.8 million that we can save, he no longer needs to be on the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's no reason for that. And then next, Dean Lowry. You can save $2.5 million. I would like to say that Dean Lowry did something, but he didn't. He was hurt a lot. I mean, and even when he was out there, he didn't do a lot. Save $2.5 million by getting rid of Dean Lowry. That's pretty much. I mean, that gets you another $18.3 million. Now, here's a couple of other things that you can also do. There's been some talk about trading Alex Highsmith. People are saying, hey, we got Herbig. We need to trade Alex Highsmith. Absolutely not. I've been over this several times with people. If you trade Alex Highsmith before the draft, like before June 1st, the Steelers have to eat $16 million in dead cap space. Well, why would you do that? Well, you could get draft picks, but the Steelers aren't going to eat $16 million. That doesn't make any sense. Only to trade him to get draft capital for this year, you might as well just keep the guy. And not to mention, you're not getting a first-round draft pick for Alex Highsmith. That's not a knock on him because you know how much I think how good he is and what he does for the Steelers. But they're not going to give you a first-round draft pick. I'm not sure you get a second, but maybe you do, a second and a fifth, more likely a third. Doesn't make sense. Just keep the man. And what if you trade him after June 1st? Yes, the cap hit goes way down. It's like $5 million in dead cap space. Okay, you can live with that. You don't want to, but you can live with it. But the draft has already happened. So if you trade him after June 1st, there's no draft picks for this year. So basically, you just gave up Alex Highsmith for draft capital in 2026 and $5 million. Well, how much sense does that make? That doesn't make any sense. Like, no sense. Doesn't mean that won't happen. I'm just telling you that just doesn't make sense. So I wouldn't expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to do that at all. But what you can do with Alex Highsmith, you can restructure his contract. You restructure his contract, okay, that's more cap space that comes available for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I get it. That's kicking the can down the road a little bit. Yeah, okay, but we have the room. So when you have the room, you use the room. Let's do it. Pat Freiermuth just signed a new contract. That's another one. You can restructure that deal. You restructure that. Let's say that, I mean, that's another $7.5 million that you can free up by restructuring these guys' deals. I mean, that's another, when you add that to the 18, we're looking at another $25 million, guys. I mean, that's a lot of money that the Pittsburgh Steelers can have. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, they can get up to close to $90 million in cap space by doing these things. Now the question comes, what do you do with the money? Where do you spend it? Well, I've got some ideas. And I know we've talked about it before. It's like you go into free agency. The first thing is you overpay. Okay? Free agency is all about overpaying. That's literally what it is. You know, you don't give, if a guy's worth $7 million, if you want him on your team, you give him 8. You give him 8.5. That's just the way free agency works. I'm sorry. You don't underpay on free agency. It's never going to work that way. So go into it understanding that, especially as us as fans, knowing that you're going to have to overpay some guys. Well, you start out with wide receiver. Okay, where do you go? I mean, there's plenty of options that are available at wide receiver. Realistic options with this type of money as well, because you can pay some guys with this kind of cap space, man. I mean, Chris Godwin, I get it. The injury, the dislocated ankle, it wasn't great, but I like Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin's a route runner. Chris Godwin catches footballs. Chris Godwin is good in the locker room. Chris Godwin would be a good Pittsburgh Steeler, regardless of who the quarterback is. He makes sense. Now, does Tampa let him go? I don't know. But I know if the Pittsburgh Steelers can throw a bag his way, he may end up taking it. So that would be somebody. Stefon Diggs coming off the knee injury. Now, I know what you're going to say. Diggs is a head case. Um, and maybe he is. We've heard reports that he is. We've heard things that he isn't. Josh Allen didn't seem to be too sad that Stefon Diggs was no longer in the locker room anymore. And maybe that was good for Buffalo. And we got George Pickens to have to deal with. Do we need to bring somebody else in that kind of has that diva type attitude? I would say no. But as far as talent is concerned, Stefon Diggs, again, catches the football, great route runner. Another one, Darius Slayton is not on those guys' level, but I would like Darius Slayton too. Now, he's not going to cost as much as those guys will. He won't because, again, he's not as good. But I like Darius Slayton. Again, another route runner. Also got some speed to him. And we could get him, I don't want to say on the cheap, but cheaper than those other guys. The last person on this list is Davante Adams. And Davante Adams is a little older. And I know what everybody's going to think. And I think the same thing. Davante Adams is almost a package deal with Aaron Rodgers. Now, maybe he's not. Maybe he's like, you know what? I tried that in New York and it didn't work. And if he decides that I don't want to do that and I would like to be with the Steelers, give him his money. If it's a package deal with Aaron Rodgers, we're going to have to think about it. We're going to have to think about it because I'm just not sure about that, man. I'm just not sure about that. At defensive line, look, there's two names for me that come up. And we do need defensive line help. Javon Hargrave, I mean, he's been with us already. We know what he can do. He came off a triceps injury, and he's been hurt. I get it. And San Francisco's got money spent and spread out all over the place. They couldn't afford to keep him anymore. He's 32. I don't think there's anything wrong with being 32. And again, it's not that his injury was like a knee injury or he's got a debilitating back injury or something like that. It's triceps. Those things heal. Surgery, you fix it, you go back. I'm not saying it's nothing, but I'm just saying it's not one of those, well, man, he's got this knee and it's never right again. That's not the same as a triceps injury. So that's something to take a look at. I would look to try to bring him back to bolster up the line. Again, you're not going to have to give him a 4 or 5 year deal. You can give him a 2 or 3 year deal and throw some money his way. Look, Milton Williams coming from Philadelphia. Now that's a guy probably around the $15 to $16 million range. But he's worth it. 26 in his prime, just coming off a Super Bowl win. Not to mention he was dominant in the Super Bowl. He beat up the Chiefs' offensive line. That's a guy that I would look. And it's not, and maybe you want to say, well, you hadn't heard a lot about him because he played next to Jalen Carter. And maybe things were easier because he played for Jalen Carter. Well, isn't Cam Hayward still a Pittsburgh Steeler? Isn't Alex Highsmith? Oh, by the way, isn't TJ Watt? I mean, those guys still exist. So, yeah, he played around a really good player. He's also going to play around some really good players in Pittsburgh, too. I'm not saying that Cam Hayward's going to play forever, but I think he's going to play next year. So, we got an opportunity there. That's the one name that I like the most as far as a defensive lineman. That would be the guy that I like. Put him in that rotation. Again, you got Keanu Benton. You can fill in the gaps there. You also have a draft to fill in the gaps. But think about that. I really like Milton Williams. Now you go to cornerback. There's really only two guys for me. Then there's other people, but at the top of my list, I should say, Byron Murphy out of Minnesota. Yeah, I like Byron Murphy. I would throw money his way. He fits the mold of what a Pittsburgh Steeler cornerback used to be, still can be, and what we need. Physical, can cover, had 6 picks last year. I like Byron Murphy. The other one is DJ Reed. DJ Reed is not so much of an interception guy. He just knocks down a bunch of passes. Look, he played opposite of Sauce Gardner, which Sauce Gardner is really good. I think some people tried to put Sauce Gardner on this superstar path a little bit too early, but let's not kid ourselves. He's very, very good. But so is DJ Reed. And so people didn't throw at Sauce Gardner, and they threw at DJ Reed, and he just kept knocking passes away. I would love to have a DJ Reed on our team. He's not a big guy, but he covers guys. He's sticky coverage, which is what Pittsburgh needs as far as a cornerback position right now. Then we looked at offensive guard. You guys know I have been screaming about building the front of our offensive line or the middle of our offensive line. I've been up in arms about it, and I'm still up in arms about it. I'm not backing off of that. I think it's that important. Trey Smith, throw a bag his way. He may not take it. The Chiefs may get enough room to be able to keep him, or somebody else might. But throw a bag his way and see if he takes it. Trey Smith, he's a right guard. I understand that he got whipped in the Super Bowl. He didn't look great. I totally understand that. But that was one game. The entire season, he did look really good. So that's why he's at the top of every free agent list that's out there. I would throw a bag his way and see if he wanted to come to the Pittsburgh Steelers and be a part of our organization and take the money. Because he's really good, guys. He's not just some one hit or he played with other people. No. He's really, really good. Next on the list, I'm still in favor of James Daniels. Now, I know there's a ton of reports that James Daniels isn't going to be back. There was that report at the beginning of last year that James Daniels wasn't coming back, that they basically, both sides had agreed he was going to move on. But James Daniels is still young. And when I say young, he's 28 years old. And he's got a lot of experience, a lot of starting experience, and he's going to come a little bit cheaper than what he was last year. And maybe that was what went into Pittsburgh's thinking is, you know what, this guy's going to get $20 million to be a guard somewhere. We're not going to be in that market. Well, coming off an Achilles injury, I'm sorry, James Daniels is not going to get that. So they're going to want to see that he can play. I wouldn't mind bringing him back for 1 year on a prove-it deal if that's what it took. Now, maybe somebody else throws a 2 or 3 year deal at him, but $20 million a year isn't what he's going to get now. So I'm not opposed to bringing James Daniels back. He's not the road grader, mean guy, that we might want or that McCormick has the potential to be. But I'm okay with bringing competition back at that position. Absolutely. And people are too quick to try to throw away Isaac Seumalo on the other side. You people are nuts that want to trade him or get rid of him. You notice I didn't bring him up in the conversation of people to get rid of to save cap space because I'm not saying the Steelers can't or won't do that. I think they would be absolutely insane if they did do that. So that's just my point. But I would look into bringing James Daniels back. And then Will Freeze, a guard out of Indianapolis. I really like him. Indy more than likely is going to keep him, but if the Steelers could steal him, I'd take him. Take him in a heartbeat. Again, I want to create as much competition at positions as possible. And I know we have McCormick. I get it. And he had an up and down rookie season. He tailed off at the end, and he's learning. But isn't it better to have competition and have as many good players as you possibly can have on the offensive line? Somebody asked me the other day in one of the chats that we were talking about, and they said, when do you stop investing in an offensive line? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? And my answer was very quick and very easy. The answer is never. You never stop investing in your offensive line. I don't care who you have. You always invest in the offensive line. Always. Because first off, injuries happen. So we saw that this year. We thought we had a deep offensive line until injuries hit us. And then what? It wasn't so deep anymore. So you always invest in that offensive line, man. You never stop. I'm not saying you got to go out and get every single free agent every year. That's not what I'm talking about. But you don't stop investing in an offensive line. You just don't do that because you can't have enough depth there. You just can't. So, and then obviously the position is quarterback. Justin Fields or Aaron Rodgers. Look, where there's smoke, there's fire, man. And there's too many reports out there that keep talking about Aaron Rodgers. Now, it might all be BS. It might all be the old Brandon Ayuk of last year. But if y'all remember, I kept saying that Brandon Ayuk wasn't coming. If you guys remember from last year, I kept saying he's not coming to the Steelers. He wasn't really interested in the Steelers. And that came to fruition. People got mad at me because I said the Steelers were the side piece. Well, The Steelers were the side piece. He was never coming to Pittsburgh. That wasn't going to happen. He just used us to get what he wanted. Okay, great. Is Aaron Rodgers doing the same thing, or is this a real thing because he doesn't have anywhere to go? Mike Tomlin likes veteran quarterbacks. He's tipped his hat to Aaron Rodgers during the game before, which made us all sick. I understand that. Aaron Rodgers isn't what he is. He brings a ton of drama. But, I mean, nobody's talking about Russell Wilson, are they? And we had this conversation yesterday. I still believe that Aaron Rodgers is better than Russell Wilson. And I don't think that's very controversial because hasn't Aaron Rodgers always been better than Russell Wilson? Like, he's always been better than him. So just because it's later doesn't mean they're both old. I mean, as far as football terms are concerned, he's still better. And if you did pay attention, then you do know that the last 6 games that Aaron Rodgers played behind a bad offensive line was much better than the last 6 games that Russell Wilson played last year against with a bad offensive line. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm throwing it out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you I want Aaron Rodgers because I'm not the hypocritic type. I don't want him. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense. And Justin Fields, there seems to be other competition for Justin Fields. A lot of Steeler fans are like, hey, man, why aren't we just getting this thing done? Well, there seems to be a lot of competition out there for Justin Fields. And that, he's going to be a free agent. People are like, why don't we just sign it and get it over with? Well, again, number one, free agency hasn't started. Number two, you got to have 2 people to tango. And we can't just sign Justin Fields if he won't sign on the dotted line because he wants to see what's available to him out there. And if we do want him, we're going to have to overpay him. We're not going to give him $30 million a year or anything like that because we don't even have to give Aaron Rodgers that. But we'll see what happens, man. It's going to be crazy, this free agency, because the thing is, Omar Kahn has got to make this roster better. And how much better can he make it? Got to swing for the fences. That's my approach. You've got to swing for the fences. Now, we're going to talk about how here in a minute that might be a little contradictory to what former Steelers say, but swing for the fences because you know what does matter? Money. And if you can give somebody more money than the next place, and it's not like the Steelers organization is a bad place. It isn't. So how good can we get this roster? I think we got to take our chances and go out there and just, like I said, swing for the fences, man. Let's get to the poll question. Very interesting poll question today. If you had to retain one of these big contracts, who would you keep? A, Larry O, B, Holcomb, or C, Patterson? I mean, if there was a D, it would be none. But I guess if I had to keep one, it would be Patterson just for the money's sake. Just for the money's sake. Larry O saving $7 million, Holcomb saving $6 million. Yeah, I mean that's a no-brainer for me. No-brainer for me. Let's move on, people. So Big has come out against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I don't know if you would say it's coming out against them, but he's saying that Pittsburgh is no longer a free agent destination, that it's not a place where people want to go. And the quote that he had was, you have to evolve. He said, you have to evolve as a team. You can't just assume that everybody wants to come and play for the Steelers anymore like they used to. I mean, yeah, I agree with that statement. First off, you absolutely have to evolve. That's where half the fan base is so frustrated with Pittsburgh is because we live in the Steeler way in 70s, 80s, 90s football. And that doesn't work today. It just doesn't work today in today's game. And, the way that the business is done in the NFL, you can't do that. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to be mad at me that said the Steeler way doesn't work. Look, I'm a diehard Pittsburgh Steeler fan, but you can't run your business. For instance, there's no regular business out there that runs the same way as the 70s or 80s. Things evolve. They change. This is the same thing. The business of the NFL has changed. So the Steelers have to change along with it. you know? And what Ryan Clark came out, and I don't know if any of you all heard, he came out and he said that Ben was wrong and that the Steelers have always been built on draft picks. And he's right. It's been built on draft picks and keeping people around. He's right in saying that, but that's the problem. That's the whole issue is that if you are building your team on draft picks and you don't hit on all the draft picks, then what do you have? So, yeah, you need to bring in free agency and dive into free agency head first and go buy players. That's what this is about. Ben is right. Now, what Ben is saying is the Steelers have to evolve. I'm not going to go as far as say nobody wants to come to Pittsburgh anymore. I'm not going to go that far because you hear it all over the place from players saying about how much they love Mike Tomlin and want to come play for Mike Tomlin. You hear that. And I know the Tomlin haters are going to be up in arms. I get it. But that still doesn't change the facts. And the facts are players say it all the time. There's no reason for them to say that they want to play for Mike Tomlin if it wasn't true. It doesn't make sense. So, yeah, that's still a thing. And it's still the Pittsburgh Steelers. That still means something. Having said all of that, you got to evolve how you do things. And maybe Omar Kahn is going to be able to do that. Maybe he's not. If you ask me, it's more like you got Art Rooney II and a Mike Tomlin that's kind of stuck in the past. And Omar Kahn wants to move past it and say, hey, man, we got to evolve and do things a different way. And maybe Kahn will rule out. Maybe he'll get them to change with him. But that's what Big Ben is talking about. I think he took it a step too far by saying it's no longer a destination, that people just don't want to come and play there. But he is right when he says they have to evolve. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about that. What Ryan Clark is saying, I get what he's saying, that, hey, the Steelers have always been built through the draft. And that's true. I mean, it's like, what is it, like James Ferrier, Kevin Green? I mean, those are the guys that you think of when you talk about big-time free agents, and hell, I think Patrick Queen has the biggest contract that the Steelers have given to a free agent before, that wasn't drafted by us. So, yeah, they have always been built through the draft. That's true. But and again, that in lies the problem, is that shouldn't be the case. Not in today's NFL. Not in today's NFL. You have to change with the times. Teams move up and down. They use free agency. They buy players. They do it all the time. The Steelers got to do the same thing. Is it important to be able to draft well and develop and keep those guys? Absolutely. Absolutely. But you're never going to keep everybody. That's the whole thing about this. You're not able to just keep everybody. And living in a world where you just say, well, we're only going to do it through the draft and then just pay our own people is not a realistic world. It's just what I went back, or I'll go back to what I said earlier. If you don't hit on the draft picks, then you're just churning draft picks over and you're never bringing in a collection of good players. At some point, you have to have good players and you have to be able to bring those guys in. That's the difference. That's where the Steelers need to be. And they have the opportunity this offseason to do it. So with regards to Ben and Ryan Clark, two things can be true. Ben maybe went a little bit overboard and Ryan Clark didn't go far enough. But either way, I think both men, they have points. But when it comes down to Big Ben, I mean, he's right. We got to evolve. You got to evolve. And I know, like I said, the Steeler way of the 70s and 80s and 90s on how to do business, there's going to be a lot of people that don't like me saying that, but I'm not going to apologize for it because it is just the truth. I love the Steelers. I want them to win every single game, every single year. There is no exceptions. But to sit here and to try to say that, well, we can just do it the same way we've always done it. No, you can't. Sorry. The business of the NFL literally won't allow you to do that. And it isn't a matter of Pittsburgh being in a small market either. Maybe you could say, well, people don't want to come and live in Pittsburgh. Okay, if that's the route you want to go. But then why isn't everybody in Miami? I mean, why isn't that the case? Is there a better place to live than Miami? Why isn't everybody in Miami or in Tampa or LA or Vegas? Well, that's not where all the free agents go, you know? So that's my point. It's not about small market. It's not about where people have to go and live. You don't have to do that. It's evolving and just getting in the game. Steelers got to get in the game. Let's go to the poll question, man. Steelers just got to get in the game. So are you with Big Ben that the Steelers are not a desired free agent destination? A, yes to, or B, no to? It's a good question. It's a really good question. You know, do you think that Pittsburgh is not a desired place for free agents? Like I said, I don't think people talking about, well, it's Pittsburgh and there's, it's super cold. I'm like, guys aren't living a lot of times in the place where they play year round. I mean, they make too much money. They don't have to do that. So if you're in Pittsburgh and you don't like the cold and you want to be somewhere else, yeah, you may get a bunch of money to play there, but then you go live somewhere else. I mean, the people are able to do that. You're able to do that. All right, man. We're at halftime. Look, I appreciate everybody and all the support that you guys have given us. I say it every week, and I'm going to continue to say it every week because it doesn't get old to me. We started this April 4th of 2024, man, and we are crushing. You see the numbers there, 64-61 as far as subscribers and counting. You guys have made this easy to do. You really have. And with the support that you guys have given us through subscribing and also through memberships, man, that means a lot. You show up in chats, you guys are rowdy. You show up in the comments section of videos, you guys are rowdy. I love it. I love this fan base, man. We're crazy, but we're in this together, and we just want to win. That's the thing. We just want to win. We all have our different ways on how we want to do it, but ultimately, we're just trying to win. So I appreciate it. Again, remember to like, follow, subscribe, continue to get in the comments, and if you want to become a member and get that member access and get the member content that's out there, make sure that you do that. There's 5 separate levels of content for you guys or membership levels for you guys to be a part of, man. And it's fun. I love doing all of it. Me and my producer, guy that runs all the back end and all the graphics, have a good time, man. We have a good time. So we appreciate that. Let's move on. Broderick Jones, our main man, Broderick Jones. Can he be fixed at left tackle? So let's dive in first here. Is that there's so many people at the beginning of the season, and it kind of tapered off at the end. But at the beginning of the season, I was on Broderick Jones hard. I was on him. Our all 22 that we break down to the offensive line, I was on his head. And he deserved it. We saw the play, but people were out there making excuses for him. The excuses came from everywhere. Well, he's not a right tackle. Well, he's hurt. Well, the play calling's bad. And it was everywhere. And my thought was this. I get that he's a left tackle. I understand. You can even say that he shouldn't be playing there. He should have just been put at left tackle, and that's it. I'm not going to disagree with you, not going to argue with you. But what I will argue with you is this. As a rookie, he got put at right tackle because Chooks was pathetic and he badmouthed Mike Tomlin, so that'll get you a ticket on the bench. They put him in, and he played well. Now, was it spectacular? No. Did he have some issues in pass protection? Yeah, because he's super raw, but he played well. There isn't a realistic person on earth that watched the Steelers play that would tell you that he didn't take at least 2 steps back with his play this year at right tackle. So if he's a left tackle and it's so hard for him to play right tackle, why did he play better as a rookie than he did in the second year? Now, people are going to say that he was hurt. He started wearing an arm brace in training camp. I'm not going to tell you that he wasn't hurt because I started to say, I think either he has a torn tricep, bicep, or he's got a UCL ligament, and maybe he needed surgery. I said all of that. But the one thing that I also said was, injury or not, that's not an excuse for bad play. Okay? So there's nothing written that says, hey, man, I'm hurt. I'm out here playing, so I get to play bad. No, No, that's not written anywhere in any rule book, handbook. That's not the rules of football. If you're out there, maybe you don't perform at your highest level, but that doesn't mean you get to play bad. Now, the point with that is maybe this is Broderick's highest level. If it is, that's a problem. It's a big problem, especially we moved up in the first round to draft him. But he's going to move to left tackle, and we're going to see. Like, was he injured? Was that the problem? It's like, hey, man, he was just hurt all year. I hope it was. Not that I hope that he was injured. I hope that his injury was the reason that we didn't see the growth from him. That's what I'm hoping is that, hey, man, he was hurt. You could see it because the one thing about it is his punch and his hand placement was horrible all season long. It was better as a rookie. So those are two things. If you can't extend, you can't get good punch, you got an elbow issue or a tricep, bicep issue, whatever it is. Okay, I give. And I'm going to give him that benefit of the doubt that, hey, man, if he was injured, let's get it back together. But the one thing that we saw out of him that doesn't have anything to do with the damn injury is he seemed uninterested at times. The effort from Broderick Jones was pathetic a lot of the time. And that, people, you can't excuse. You hurt or not, the effort, the want to, the will, the give a shit, that just wasn't there all the time, man. It just wasn't. And it wasn't just me that noticed it. You guys noticed it too. You got in the comments and said it. Anybody that would call him out and talk about his effort, no, even the biggest Broderick supporters never even questioned when people would say that because they knew, they watched, they saw. So that part we got to fix. We got to fix. And maybe he was disenchanted or disenfranchised, whatever, because he was playing playing right tackle and he felt like he needed to be the left tackle and he was never given the opportunity. I get it. And he's young. He's not the most mature guy yet because he can't be. He's too young. So I understand that. But year 3 is different. Now, here's another thing, man. 65th best tackle, according to PFF. That's not going to get it done. Again, you know me. I'm not the biggest pro football focused guy. I'm not. I always say that, and I always want to preface that because it's true. I use my eyes more than I'm going to use pro football focus. But they're not all wrong either. It's not just a horrible tool, to be able to use. Having said that, he was 65th. We can't have that if he's going to be our left tackle. And Dan Moore was much higher than him, over 20 spots higher than Broderick Jones. Keep that in mind. He gave up 11 sacks in 2023. That's not good. Again, injury, want to, technique, all these things. Broderick Jones, he goes to the left side. They have to be 100% better. 100% better. He's just got to do it. So, but here's the one thing about Broderick Jones, and I want everybody to hear me because all I've done is bash him in this podcast, is he has all the tools to be an outstanding left tackle. He's got it. There's no doubts in my mind that when it comes to power, strength, athleticism, his size, Broderick Jones has it. He's got it. Now it's, does he have the want to, and the ability? Because I didn't mention ability, size, athleticism, strength, all that stuff. That has nothing to do with ability because he can have all of that. And if he's just not good enough, he's just not good enough. There's plenty of people out there that walk around every day that have the size, strength, and athleticism to play in the National Football League, but they're just not good football players. So hopefully he's got all of that and he can turn it around, man. Let's go to the poll question with Big Broderick. I'm kind of excited about it. I'm excited about him. So, do you feel confident starting the 2025 season with Broderick Jones protecting the blind side or whomever is the quarterback? A, yes, 3, or B, no 3. So outside of us having a left-handed quarterback, which doesn't seem like the Steelers are going to have this year, but who knows? Are you comfortable with Broderick playing left tackle and protecting his blind side? Like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do, man. I really am. I hope that he can get this thing turned around because he's a good kid. And I hope good things happen for him because you know why? If good things happen for Broderick Jones, that means good things are happening for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you know my philosophy. Don't care. All I want Steelers to do is win. That's it. That's it. So, all right, let's move on, man. So we got a round mock draft that I put together, man. Now I'm going to put together another podcast, here soon with a mock draft and, be interesting because we're going to take different positions, number one, and all that kind of stuff, and we're going to put it all together. Still working on how exactly I want to do it, but it'll be fun. But today, mock draft, first 5 rounds, Pittsburgh Steelers. Put it in, and this is what came out. I thought it was a pretty good one. First pick. First of all, I said this from day one. If Walter Nolan is available to the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 21, I don't care who's on the board. The Steelers have to take him. Okay? 6'4", 290. The Steelers have to take him. Period. End of story. I don't want to talk about a whole lot else. Is that if he's available at 21, the Steelers take him. And that's what I did in this draft. He was available. I said, absolutely, we're taking D-line first. Boom. Move on. Second pick. Now, this one was a little bit of a reach. I took Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State. Now, to me, he's what the Steelers need opposite of George Pickens, is that he's a guy, he is a long strider, but he is a good route runner. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times when you get guys that are long striders, they're not good route runners. Well, he is. He's a good route runner. Can catch. He's tall, 6'4", 220. He's a big receiver. We've got enough slot receivers. Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin. I mean, we've got those guys. Again, I get it. We haven't seen Roman Wilson play a meaningful down of football. I totally understand, but he is on our team. And barring injury, I suspect he's going to be on the field for the Steelers this year. So to me, that's what I want to go. And again, I say we're going to get a wide receiver in free agency. We thought that last year when it didn't happen. So I would assume that we're still going to do that. So do we need Higgins to come in and be the starter immediately? Probably not. If we get somebody in free agency. So, but I like him. I think it's a reach. Plus, if Pickens acts berserk, and we don't sign him to another contract next year and we don't extend him or anything, he can fit right in there. That's all I'm saying. So it's kind of the reason that I took him, thinking ahead a little bit. Third round. Couldn't believe that he was here. Caleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa. I have been skeptical of him from day one. I know he fits into Arthur Smith's scheme, outside zone scheme. He fits. He's that guy. He's definitely that guy. But I want to see speed. I compared him to Najee early and said that he wasn't good laterally, and he isn't. I think he's faster than Najee, but he's not great laterally. He's not. But we'll see. But if he's in the third round, yeah, absolutely. Third round, Caleb Johnson, I would take him. Absolutely. Again, I'm starting to warm up to him a little bit more. I'm starting to warm up to that fact. And again, the comparison to Najee was early. Like I said, he's not good laterally, but he's a much better outside zone, foot in the ground, finding a hole than Najee Harris is. Much better than him. So the comparison was probably a little bit premature. Going to the fourth round, Zy Alexander. Not a lot of people are talking about him. Big corner, fourth round, 6'2", 194 out of LSU. We can get him in the fourth round. I know a lot of people are talking about Quincy Riley. Look, y'all know me. I'm a diehard Louisville Cardinals fan. It would do me great justice to have Quincy Riley be on the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I think Zy Alexander's a little better. He's bigger, just as fast, a little more physical. I like him. I like him in the fourth round. Fifth round, this is what I would say. Again, I told you earlier about the Steelers. You never stop investing in offensive line. Luke Kandra, guard out of Cincinnati. I think if he's around in the 5th round, and that's where his rankings are, I'm just telling you, I've seen this kid play a lot because of the podcast I do on Big 12 Insiders. He's better than this. He's better than this. If the Steelers were able to get him in the 5th round, I think he's the steal of the draft. I really do. He's that good. I'm not saying that he should be drafted in the first 2 rounds. I didn't say that. All I'm saying, in the 5th, if we're able to get him in the 5th, let me put it like this. You put on tape of him and McCormick from their senior years, he's better than McCormick. And just that fact, he's better than Mason McCormick. And McCormick started for 14 games for the Steelers this year? So keep that in mind. If the Steelers were able to get him in the 5th round, I think it would be one of the steals of the draft. So now I only did 5 here because, when you get into the later rounds, it can get into the weeds a little bit. So I did 5. When we do our podcast on the mock draft, we'll do all the rounds. I said, but this is what I got here. Again, Walter Nolan first. If he's around at 21, we got to take him. Jaden Higgins, Caleb Johnson, Zy Alexander, and Luke Kandra. Let me know what you guys think, man. I think that would be a solid 5 picks. It addresses what we need, and I had thought about going defensive line with the 5th rounder, but Kandra was there, and I thought, no, I'm not doing it. Not doing it. And no, I didn't take a quarterback either. I think if we want to take a quarterback, which I think the Steelers probably should, you can wait till the 7th round to do that. You can wait and get a quarterback there, because the quarterback that the Steelers are going to take, you're not planning on them being a starter. The Steelers are trying to win now. If you're trying to win now, you don't need to take a quarterback in the 3rd round. That guy's not going to play for you this year. So what's the point? And at least I'm trying to win now. Now, maybe other people think, we're going to wait and we just need to build. And I think the Steelers, with the salary cap money that we have, and if we have the kind of draft that we could possibly have, Steelers can win right now. And what are we going to wait for TJ Watt another 2 years? Cam Hayward? No, let's win now. Let's win now. And I know people are going to get, Mike Tomlin and they're never going to win with him. Okay, maybe they won't. But what if they do? You got to be at least a little bit of a fan, don't you? I don't know. That's just me. Maybe it's my crazy fandom and my optimistic approach to things. But that's just the way I look at it. So let's get to the poll question here. So, what position would you draft in the 1st round of this year's draft? Would it be A, a running back, B, nose tackle, C, wide receiver, or D, quarterback? Ooh. So what position would you draft of these 4? Running back, nose tackle, wide receiver, or quarterback? This is pretty interesting. Pretty interesting this year, especially after free agency. We'll see. Well, look, people, Big Ben's remarks, they kind of hit a little different this time, because he's attacking the culture. It's a shot at Mike Tomlin almost, is that it's not a destination to come and play at Pittsburgh. It's not anymore. And him talking about the evolution of what Pittsburgh needs to be, I feel like Ben is like, you know what? You should have done this the last couple of years that I was there, and maybe you wouldn't be in this mess. Maybe you should evolve from what you were. Ben is right, people. He's right. We may not want to admit it. We may not want to accept it. But truth and facts are just what they are. Truth and facts. And he's not lying about the Steelers evolving. Diving into free agency and overpaying for free agents is something the Steelers are just going to have to start doing. They have to do it. You can't dab your toe in it and get a guy that's off the beaten path. We're the damn Pittsburgh Steelers. We don't have to be off the beaten path. We can be on the main path, okay? We can pay the big dollars. This isn't baseball where there is no salary cap and it's on how much you can afford. Everybody gets to spend the same amount of money. You all get to spend the same amount. So we have it. It's not a matter of, well, the team will go broke or they'll go under. No, that's not it. Go spend the money, change the philosophy, and go be the team. Again, we're the damn Pittsburgh Steelers. There's no reason, none, that we have to sit back and dabble in free agency like a middling team that's got middling money that can't compete at the highest levels. The NFL is the highest level. Everybody that's in it is at the highest levels. It's just, do you want to go spend it? Is your philosophy to go get people? Do you have the scouting department? Do you have the cap department that's crafty enough to figure things out? Don't discount that. That means something too. The Steelers have to get to that level. Ben is right. We have to evolve. Maybe it is a shot at the Steelers. Maybe it's a shot at whatever you want to, at Mike Tomlin. Fine. But he's not wrong, people. He's not wrong. And this offseason has to be the offseason that the Steelers say, you know what? We're moving forward. We're changing things. We got to do things a different way because what we've done before hasn't worked. The business of the NFL is different. It's time to get forward. It's time to get moving. It's time to start winning. So appreciate you guys, man. Thank you guys again for all the support that you guys have had. We appreciate you getting those comments, man. Remember to like, follow, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you know exactly when Steelers Almighty content comes out. Till next time, man. Aloha.